This show is sponsored by PowerfulWomenUSA.com, a place to be inspired by successful women. And you can listen to previous shows as well. Hey, everybody, I'm Jill Conway, and this is Secrets of Powerful Women, a show dedicated to celebrating and supporting strong and successful women and sharing their stories. I'm hoping that you will be inspired to pursue your own dreams, feel empowered, reclaim your voice, and discover your strengths. If you love what you're listening to, follow me on Spotify and Instagram. Well, guys, my guest today is Suzy Batiz. Suzy is a well-known entrepreneur. She is the founder and CEO of Poo Pourri, CEO of Supernatural Cleaning Products, and she is also a transformational thought leader with an online course on how to help people transform their lives to live their dreams. Suzy, thank you so much for being here, and welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you. Such an honor. I appreciate you having me.
Oh, you're awesome. Your story's awesome, and I can't wait to share it with listeners. I was talking to you briefly before, and I said I have Poo Pourri spray in every one of my bathrooms, in my car, everywhere. So,
thank you.
You have an amazing and inspirational story of success. So, if we can, let's begin there. How did the idea for Poo Pourri toilet spray come about? I heard there was a dinner party or something like that.
Yeah, there was a dinner party, and what was really amazing about it is I had just come off of bankruptcy about 4 years prior, and I'd gone through a spiritual sabbatical. I had zero desire to be in business or money. I just have to preface with that, right? It was like I was rich inside for the first time in my life.
Wow.
And I think that's really important to say. I wasn't looking for anything. And we're at a dinner party, and someone says, it was a small family gathering. I mean, quite a bit of family, but one bathroom. And someone said, can bathroom odor be trapped? And one of I call it a prophetic gift. I don't know. We all have different gifts, but I see things. So I see oil floating on water. And I have always been a closet hippie, I say closet because I lived in Dallas and North Dallas. So, 30 years ago, that wasn't so cool. But I knew I could do that with essential oils. And I said, I can do that.
Wow.
And the reason I knew I could do it is because I saw it, right? It's almost like if there's a chair here and you're like, there's a chair, and someone says that chair doesn't really exist. You're like, no, I see it.
Right.
That's the way it is with these visions that, God, the universe, whatever you want to call, whatever it is, gives me. And not a single person thought it was a good idea, but it didn't matter because I'd already seen it.
Right.
So what I did is I just started mixing in my kitchen, and it took me 9 months, and almost, 9 months later, my husband at the time walks out of the bathroom, and he's like, oh, my God, we're going to be millionaires. Mm-hmm. And I said, what? He said, do you realize what you've done? You've taken the smell out of, poop.
Wow.
And I was like, what? It works?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And I still didn't have a desire to put it on the market. So I sent it out. I'm a little type A. I sent it out to about 12 friends and had a whole, checklist, please rate it,
Yeah.
And they all called me and were like, girl, you got to put this out there. Like, make me more. So I was making it in my kitchen, and I had, $25,000. I bought 2,000 bottles.
Wow.
And I thought, well, heck, I've sold stuff out of the trunk of my car. I'll buy 2,000 bottles and see how it goes. And it was literally such I really teach people to wait for those alive ideas, and we'll get into that a little bit further maybe later.
Sure.
But whenever an idea is alive like that, it will bring its own energy, and it will help you walk down the path. I had never made a product before. I'd been in lots of businesses, but, like recruiting and, interior design
And how did you feel being in those businesses? Did you vibe with that, or was there always something like, this isn't for me?
Yeah, none of it was ever for me, but I wasn't raised to believe that I could follow inspiration. It was more like, oh, there's not a tanning salon here. A tanning salon would really work. You know what I'm saying?
Right, yeah.
So everything was it was kind of logical. It wasn't inspired. The difference for this is I was being pulled. I didn't have to push. I didn't have to try to make it. It was literally pulling me along the way. And that's the difference of what I say an alive idea is versus just what you would consider maybe a good idea.
Right. Well, I mean, at that point, when I hit the mic, when you are, you have that idea and all your friends are loving it. I can only imagine, first of all, the whole, as you're going through samples and you're smelling it, like, does that work? I can only imagine what that's like, right? But going through the months of that, I don't know. Does that work? I'm gonna spray it again. But
yeah, it was pretty bad.
Right. So, but what do? You start selling it at like craft fairs and things like that. Like, what was your initial after your friend said yes, go? Like, where did you take it, or just all of a sudden?
Because I'd been in so many businesses, my husband was in IT. He learned to build websites. So
okay.
I would always have a new business idea and he'd have to whip up a website. They weren't great, but I put up a website and I called around to some radio stations and went out to a radio station. They announced it online, got a few online sales.
Wow.
And then I had a friend of a friend call me, one of the friends that was testing, and he said, hey, my friend Harold has a gift shop. Would you sell wholesale to him? And I'm like, what does that mean?
Right.
Like, that's how little information I have. And they said, oh, well, that means you sell it to him at half price. Then, he gets to mark it up. And
right.
So I called him and I'm like, I went to go visit his store and there was a lady at the counter. It was really funny. It was a really kind of, prissy store, and she had on like a mink headband and, her Louis purse, and she wouldn't even look at me.
It's like a Pretty Woman moment, like the movie, right?
Yeah, totally. And I had my product in a plastic milk crate, right?
Right.
And she wouldn't even look at me. And he was like, tell her about your product. And I told her, and she didn't even look at me. She goes, that's clever. I'll take 4. And I was like, oh my God, the big ones or the little ones? Just the big ones. I was like, oh my gosh, because I had like a 2 ounce and 4 ounce. And then I was like, wow. Then the next day, another store called and said, my friend Harold bought the product. Can I buy it? And it just kept going like that.
Right.
And then they said, can you go to market? And I'm like, what is that? That's what I mean.
Right.
Like, I literally knew nothing.
Wow.
About this business or how to do. I had zero business plan,
right.
But everything was just sort of presented to me step by step by step. And I just kept having the courage to follow.
Right.
That's the important thing.
And that takes a lot of courage, right? Because that negative voice kind of comes in and says like, what are you thinking? You'll never get ahead, or do you hear that? Did you hear that?
Well, I didn't hear it then. And I say the reason I didn't is because after my second bankruptcy, which it was my second,
wow,
I thought, you can lose everything, so you might as well just go for it, right? Like,
right. Well, that's true.
Because what feels worse when you lose everything and you didn't follow those alive ideas and you weren't doing what you wanted to do, it feels even worse. So I thought, well, it's got to feel better if I at least go towards this because it feels good. I feel happy. Everybody else is happy. Let's see how this goes.
Right.
So I was really grateful that I didn't have a lot. I mean, of course, there were moments of panic.
Sure.
I remember my first market, we had paid like $5,000 and, I had like a black toilet and these fake lemons and people were walking, but all these booths were real professional. And I looked at my husband. I'm like, we got to go. Like, we got to get out. And he was like, we paid $5,000. I'm like, I don't care. And then, of course, I talked myself, off the ledge. Like, okay, we're at least going to stay.
Right.
But yeah, those moments come up and you just face them. You go, okay, what's the worst I have to lose here?
Oh, my goodness.
Okay.
I read that. Well, I'll ask you this. What did you want to be when you were little? You didn't want it. You never thought, as you said, you never had this vision, right? So
no,
right.
My desire was really to make clothes. Mm-hmm. I wanted to be, I didn't know it was called a fashion designer. I didn't even know you could go to school for that until I was like 28 and had 2 children,
Right.
But, that was what my passion was creating. I designed a pair of Guess shoes when I was 17. I called Guess. My boyfriend's aunt worked at a shoe factory. I called Guess in New York. I was from Arkansas. And they said, "Oh my God, we're coming out with a shoe line. Come see me." But my mom says, "You can't go to New York. You're just from Arkansas. They're going to chew you up and spit you out, right?" So I never went. Well, guess what? Guess came out with 2 years after that. The Down Pump, right?
Oh.
So I had this history of having ideas and then not following through with it. And I think that's what gave me courage, because I was always listening to everyone else and it didn't work out. So you know what? It's like, what if I just go with this idea that feels alive and do that? But that's what I wanted to do. But my big plan was really to get a government job, like at a post office, because you make
it's safe.
You pay your bills. You make money. Yeah. I grew up poor, and you made good money at a government job.
Well, that's
I never imagined I'd be here.
Wow. And one idea that and you had to go through your wins and your losses, right? One idea, and now your business is worth $500 million. So congratulations to you.
Thank you.
And you own 97% of the company. So
yeah, my kids own the other 3.
That's great. That's great. Do they work for you? Do you have family involved? Because you can always trust family.
My oldest son does work for me. Yeah,
that's nice.
But the other don't. They don't.
Yeah.
The other 2.
So do you still have those pinch me moments where you're like, wow, I done good, like I'm okay. I'm doing good. Like it must be, I just think like at that point when, like you said, and you started from very humble beginnings and there was this whole mindset of poverty and lack and you were able to get over that. I want to talk about that too, because I think that's a lot of people have that. Especially from our age group. I think that's how you grow up. Your parents didn't really have money. So you kind of, that's what you think. That's my limit. Don't aim too high. Don't dream too big.
And you're told that, get a job that'll pay the bills and make the money. We're programmed to not believe in those ideas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you have to spend half your life reprogramming your thoughts and your, well, that's a whole nother, we'll have that conversation after the break, but that whole thing is so powerful too. So, you were able to overcome that and achieve, you're one of the, the top CEOs in the country, right? And yet you seem so lovely and genuine and funny, and you haven't let it affect you, it seems, in a bad way.
Thank you. I started really believing it all in 2019, and, the Forbes list and all that stuff. I started really getting attached. So in 2021, I moved into a little tiny 2-bedroom house in Ojai, California for a year. And what I wanted to know is, if all this went away, am I okay? Who am I? And I got to find myself again. So thank you for saying that. I know that all of this is just a huge blessing, and I just got teary, grateful, and gratitude all the time. I know that I don't need this, which I think, keeps me grounded, and I'm incredibly grateful at the same time.
Well, what's amazing to me is that you are now giving back, right? And I think so many, I can't say so many people, many people, reach your success and then coast, right? They're like, whatever. You're still the CEO. You took a little break, right? But you're still the CEO, and you have multiple companies. You now write the supernatural cleaning products, all natural, right? And also you have this online course too. So you're not stopping anytime soon. It's not like you're sitting on your laurels and like, okay, I'm just going to go on the beach and meditate, not that you don't, because I meditate too, but I'm just saying, like you could if you wanted to, and yet you're not.
No, there's, it's exciting when you discover a path. It's like, hold on, now I got to show everybody else, this is how I did it. You may want to do it too. When you struggle so much in your life and then all of a sudden you figure something out, I think the natural impulse is to want to share that.
Yeah. If you could go back to like your 20-year-old self, like what would you say? What would you say to the 20-year-old Suzy who's having, one bankruptcy? You have survived so much. You've survived sexual abuse, domestic violence, as you said, multiple bankruptcies. Wow. you really, those were lows, right? That life's lows that toss at you. But you've gone through it, and you've rose higher, right? Is it spirituality that got you through that point, or you had to find the spirituality?
Yeah, I had to find it, and that was actually the year before I attempted suicide at 21. What I would have gone back and told myself is, honey, it's such a myth that life is perfect. Life is messy, and as long as you know it's messy and it's everything's going to change all the time, and you can stay centered and watch and observe that change, then you're going to be okay. But when you ride that up and down, it's a rough ride.
Right.
That's what I would tell myself, is that, there's such a myth that, I think with the Instagram and everybody's got these perfect lives, it's like, no, life in itself is chaos, Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's what I didn't understand. I thought I was doing something wrong because of, I know now I was making bad choices because of, of course, trauma and, the way you're raised and those sort of things. But, it's easy to get caught up in it versus, okay, there's a lot of change in life, and I know that it's going to be up and down and all around. And if I can find my center and not get so caught up in it, but know that that is just the way of life, then I can be less, reactive.
There's a quote on your website, and I'm going to read it quick. It said, "For decades, I searched my external world for the magic bullet that would magically catapult me from some of life's lows. Eventually, I realized that I had the power deep within me, and it was there all along. I just had to look inside myself and to dig it out from under years and years of familial and societal programming." And that really struck a chord for me, because it's, I always refer to like shows and things and movies, but that reminds me of like the Wizard of Oz moment, right? Where Dorothy had the power all along, right? Yeah. Right? So
was that my quote?
Yeah, that was your quote.
Oh, okay. That sounds like something I would say.
Yeah. Oh my God, Suzy, I love you. But that was, to me, such a Dorothy Wizard of Oz moment, where it was like, and as soon as I feel like we unearth that, life gets easier.
That's it.
It's
like you do have it. You have access to it.
Right.
You may not have it right now, but that's when, as through meditation, through different practices, when you open, there is an intelligence in the universe. Something brought us here.
Right.
No matter what your belief system is,
Right.
Something created. So there is a source of intelligence that when you tap into it, you don't have to know everything, but that's where the source is within you. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's like when I can follow that guidance, that life that brought me here knows how to keep me alive, then I can, and when I have courage and faith in order to keep going towards those things that light me up and turn me on, and turn away from the things that are dragging me down. It's really that simple.
Right. The choice. Right.
That choice. That's it. And it's a choice. Yeah.
Right. And so many people, you say that to them and they don't believe it or don't see it. And it's like, we choose what to think, and what our thoughts control our lives. Right.
That's it. And that's the accountability, right? Going, I made a choice.
Right.
Okay, great. Didn't work out so well. I have the ability to choose again. Okay, great. Let's go. I'm going to make a different choice this time.
Right.
And I'm going to learn from that. And guess what? I've got more tools in my tool bag. So let's go again. Let's try this one more time.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. All right. We're coming up on, I don't know how this goes so quickly, but we have 1 minute and 30 seconds about, but what keeps you motivated to go through in your businesses?
Yeah, I think just my desire to serve, and my faith, and just going, okay, God, that's the term I use, what is in store today? Let me serve in the way that I need to serve my business, serve my family, serve my friends, serve the universe, serve, just show me what needs to happen, and I'll be there. That keeps me motivated. And it also keeps me in a restful place where I don't have to have any big plan, you know. There's a lot of responsibility in the plans. You know, I've got to be a big thought leader. You know, I don't have to be. What I have to do is see what shows up today and what the opportunity is, you know, and say yes to those opportunities as they come along. That is what keeps me in flow, and flow keeps me motivated.
Ooh, surrender to the, surrender, really.
Yeah, that's it.
All right, we'll be back with Suzy Batiz after the commercial break. You're listening to Secrets of Powerful Women. If you love what you're listening to, head to Powerful Women USA for previous shows, upcoming events. You can also find us on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, and Instagram. Please share this with a friend because it's good. We'll be back. Welcome back. You're listening to Secrets of Powerful Women. Suzy Batiz is here. She is founder and CEO of Poo Pourri, that toilet spray that we all have in our bathrooms. She is an intuitive thought leader, really, who helps people transform their lives and become successful and as well. And Suzy, let's dive into your transformational program. Why did you decide to do this, and what is it exactly?
Well, I decided to do it because I had written a course before Poo Pourri, so 18 years ago. This is after a bankruptcy. I wrote a course called Inside Out, How to Create a Life You Desire by Going Within, because I knew that abundance was an internal state of being. I knew it 100%. I'd found it. I was rich inside, even though I hadn't particularly manifested that externally. I was rich, you know?
Right.
And I had 5 women take the course. No one finished it. And I remember thinking like, oh, I haven't really created the abundance. Okay. You know, a few months later, the idea for Poo Pourri comes, and then, you know, I go on this magical journey.
Yeah.
And I have used my time at Poo Pourri to really, I've been a personal development junkie for 20 years.
Me too.
I've done 20 years of somatic therapy. As a matter of fact, you know, I've had therapists tell me I intimidate them because they haven't done as much therapy. I'm like, dude, I'm here because I have an issue, right?
But don't we all? Right.
Right. And I'm not saying that to brag, but I had a lot of stuff to clean up. Not only my painful past, you know, that wasn't particularly my fault, but, you know, I did a lot of things too that weren't great. So I had a lot of cleanup to do, and that was my passion. And what I started noticing, I started really discovering energy. I really was fascinated with why did Poo Pourri work? Why have I been in, you know, 20 or 30 businesses and they all failed and this one worked? What the heck was that? So that has been really my, I've been just really curious. All the ceremonies I went in, I would ask God, like, why this? It's kind of crazy. It's a poop spray. You know, what is going on?
Right. So what was the answer? Why did it?
Well, it was really to teach people about energy and flow and alive ideas. You know, what I realized is this idea was different. So whenever I started understanding energy and flow and resonance and dissonance, I started using my business as a petri dish. And as I started being more abundant, I realized that there's a system. And my gift is really refinement. One of my gifts is refinement. I'm able to, so what I wrote 18 years ago, I put on actual experience, right? And went, hold on, I knew that was the way abundance was created. Well, guess what? Here's actually how it was done. Ooh. And I put together an 8-week process, and it's really simple. You know, you basically get rid of the crap. We harvest what's left. I start teaching you about energy, about resonance and dissonance. You start removing dissonance from your life so that you can actually understand what resonance is, what an amplified field is, or an amplified life is. And then you just start moving towards that. It's really simple. It does take courage. But anyway, so fast forward, I'm in an astrology reading. This was probably 2019. And my ex-husband had brought over that binder from the attic, you know, from 13 years before of that course. And I'm in this reading, and this astrologer says, you did something 13 years ago the world wasn't ready for, but it is now. And I look down and I go, oh my God, I wrote this course 13 years ago.
Wow.
So isn't that wild?
Yeah. Well, or is it, right? I mean.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And she goes, you're going to teach the world about money and energy. And I was like, wow, okay. So I asked 25 women. I was doing a weekly entrepreneur meetup for time management, just because everybody wanted to meet with me. I didn't have time, so I said, okay, Thursday night, come here. If you get more than 3 employees, come to my house and we'll talk. So I was doing that, and then I asked 25 women, would you be my accountability partners? And I started writing the course, and I delivered a course every 2 weeks.
Wow.
And what I was amazed at is they all started radically changing their lives. I'm talking getting divorced, quitting their jobs, moving across country. And I freaked out at first, like, oh my God.
I'm going to stop now, right? People's lives are changing.
Hold on. But what I realized after I became okay with the expansion, I was like, people know what they need to do, right? It's just they needed permission or some sort of reason. And once they understood how energy worked, they were like, oh, easy decision. Okay, great. Got to go,
Oh, wow. Well, you have to give yourself permission. You have to give yourself permission. Right?
Exactly. That's it.
So what do you mean by resonance and disresonance? Let's, for people listening, go ahead.
So what happened was I had this theory that the ideas that I call alive ideas, like Poo Pourri, when I saw it, it was pulling me. It's like it had its own energy,
Right.
That those tend to work out. But the ones where I said, hold on, I need to do this because, a competitor's doing it or whatever, those didn't quite ever work out. And I couldn't figure out why. So I got a call with Dr. Bruce Lipton.
Love him.
Yep.
If anyone doesn't know who Dr. Bruce Lipton is, please look him up. Fantastic. Go ahead.
He's a cellular biologist. And I thought, I'm just going to ask him if ideas are alive. And I said, are ideas alive? He said, why do you ask? And I said, well, here's my theory. And I said, I think that's the reason most businesses fail, because they're not born of passion. It's sort of like they think it's going to be, I can make money doing this.
Right.
And he said, everything is alive. Everything's a vibration. And this next part is key. And every living thing is seeking more life force energy.
Ooh.
Isn't that cool?
Oh, that's cool. That is cool.
Every living thing is seeking more life force energy in its nature, right? It's natural to do that. And then he taught me about resonance and dissonance. He said resonance is when you put 2 energy waves of the same speed and same height, same wavelength, together, they create more energy together than they did apart. So it's not 1 + 1 = 2. It's 1 + 1 = 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. The way we know something is truth is when it works on all levels. In the Bible, Jesus says, when 2 or more are gathered in my name, right?
Yep.
What it's saying is, with the intention, the wavelengths are the same, there will be an amplified field of energy. So that's resonance. Dissonance is 2 energy waves that are just not, one's toxic and one's whatever.
Right.
It's just they're not the same wavelength or the same pattern.
Right.
So what happens with that is it's not 1 + 1 = 0, unfortunately. It actually gives you less life force energy than you had when you entered into that dissonant state, vibrational state. So when people say things like, this job is killing me, this marriage is killing me, they're actually telling you the truth. What they're saying is, I don't have as much life force energy in this particular situation or scenario as I would if I weren't in it. Okay, so that right there, that's what I mean by giving people permission. Once I taught them how energy works, they gave themselves permission, like, oh man, I know this is this, and I got to get out, I got to go, right?
Right.
So that's what I mean by resonance and dissonance. And
Dr. Lipton says, your thoughts can make you sick, right? Your thoughts, they can cause disease and dis-ease, right? You're not at ease with what you're doing. So go ahead. Sorry, I had to interject.
No, that's it.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm talking about, because what happens is even thoughts can be dissonant. Do I feel better with this thought or do I feel worse, right? Yes,
Right.
and if I feel worse with this thought, that's a dissonant thought. So that thought in itself can create and manifest, it can take life force energy away from me, which will result in disease or dis-ease.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, then those are the so people who don't want to look inside, right, and question that and really explore their feelings, because ultimately they don't want to have to act on what they find out. That's what I've realized, right? They don't want to take accountability.
That's it, man.
Yeah.
I recently just heard this lecture on the Garden of Eden I've never heard before. It blew my mind. And basically this person said in the garden, Eve ate the apple, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
God comes and he's like, Adam, what are you doing? And he's like, oh, I'm naked. Well, who told you were naked? Well, the woman. But he blames the woman. The woman that you made me eat this apple, right? And the woman says, the serpent made me do it. Right? And
right.
they were saying,
Blame. Yeah.
That was the original fall. There was no accountability. So accountability is the supercharged highway back into back into the garden of life versus, it's back into a whole state of being. It's going, oh, I made a choice. That was dissonant. Let me make another choice. No one's fault. I knew better. I knew it. That's another thing I do is I teach people to go back to that moment when you knew that was not resonant. And then what happened? And what they will 100% say is, I knew it, but I wanted something, right? Or so there was some sort of override. There's a betrayal of one's own knowing. And as long as you can go back and take accountability for that, not beat yourself up, just go, dang it, I knew. Then you can start moving forward with more accountability and making, better choices. Right. It's really easy.
Right. Don't blame yourself for making that decision at the time, but recognize that, right. You there was warning signs that you chose to overlook, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Like you saw the red flag and you're like, well, it can't be that bad. Right. It's so that's an 8-week, did you say that's an 8-week process?
It is. It's an 8-week process, and you can't fast forward. It takes probably about an hour, depending on how long you want to do your homework. It is interactive, so there are things that you need to do. To 2 to 3 hours a week. You're paired with someone if you want to be, like an accountability partner, and it's really fun. We have live groups all over the world right now.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. And it's so interesting. So ultimately, do you think that this is your purpose?
I think that purpose is a big word. What I do know is it brings me a lot of joy to share. And I love getting to be on the little side seat, watching people transform their lives. I just think it's the greatest honor. I couldn't think of doing anything better with my time and energy. It turns me on, it lights me up. So yeah, sure, this is my purpose,
Yeah, sure.
I'm getting more energy and the world's getting, that's the thing. When you are in resonance, it's also regenerative. It's not an extractive, that word sustainability is weird. That means it's kind of level. Regenerative means it's constantly producing more energy, Yeah. So when you can get aligned into what you call your purpose, or I would just say it turns you on and lights you up, right? When it actually is regenerative. For example, right now, you and I are excited about the conversation, right? It's lighting us up. Well, guess what? There's going to be other people lit up by it, and they're going to tell other people. Do you see it kind of keeps regenerating and reverberating out into the world?
Right. Well, that's
really fun.
I had an author of a book, and the book's actually called What Lights You Up. She was on the show a few weeks ago, and it's so interesting because so many people in my own family can't answer that question, right? What lights you up? And I had to take time myself to really dial it back, and then what is being lit up? Like what? So let me ask you that. What is, when someone says, I'm lit up by this, how would you explain that? Joy? Like, what is that?
Yeah, and well, let me go back for a second. One of the things I teach in Alive OS, which Alive stands for Abundance Lives in Vibrational Energy, just so you know, that's called Alive.
Wow.
Yeah, isn't that fun? But what happens is people don't know what lights them up because they're so covered with dissonance. They're in jobs they don't like. They're in relationships they don't like. They're eating foods that aren't resonant with their body, with their being. They're just, so how would you know what lights you up? You know, you're immersed in dissonance. So the first thing that we have to do is start removing some of the dissonance so that you even have room or space to feel what lights you up, right? It's right. It's almost like being in a dark room. We gotta, or a crowded room, you know, we gotta sort of make some space so that you can actually start going, oh, hold on, I am feeling. Because what happens is when we're in such dissonance, we stop feeling because we don't want to feel bad all the time, right?
Right.
So we just kind of numb out and dull out, and we get on Zoloft, and we
start drinking, we start, doing whatever, right?
Or
to numb it.
Scrolling, we numb it out. It's like we don't want to feel because if I were to feel, this doesn't feel good, right?
Right. It's so true.
So that's why, so in the course, the first thing to do is start removing some dissonance. And I literally do it with starting cleaning out your closet, right? Like you start there. Then you start cleaning out your drawers. Then you start looking at your friends. Then you start, so as you start making space, literal, energetic space, then you can start making those choices about what lights you up. And I would say you have more energy. The way I define an alive idea is you have more energy with that idea than you did before. Like, for example, I was kind of tired today. I didn't sleep well last night. And then we get on this call and I'm lit up.
Right.
Right? That's what I mean by that's what brings me joy, because I'm aligned with something that turns me on.
Right. Exactly.
And it gives me more energy.
Yeah. Did you really not have a good sleep last night? Because I didn't either.
I don't notice it right now.
I thought it was the full moon or something for like the 5th day in a row or something, but I was like, oh goodness.
Probably.
Yeah, right. But that's so funny. But no, it's so true, right? Because when you get in that I don't know, it's like, I just call it the vibe. When you get in that vibe and that flow, it's you vibrate, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You feel the energy and you just like, woo, like this is like a high. So
yeah, and we're not taught to follow that. We're not even taught to acknowledge, much less follow. Right. We're just not taught this. I was so excited. I think I just shared. I got to speak at Harvard Kennedy School about resonance and and the girl the woman who invited me. She's a graduate student and she specializes in education, and she took Alive OS. And she contacted me and said, oh my gosh, they're talking about resonance and dissonance at Harvard. And she was like, would you come speak to us? But what I feel so hopeful, not only is Harvard speaking about that, but she's going into education. Can you imagine being able to train children?
Wow. No, I can't imagine because...
Isn't that amazing?
Right. Wow. That's amazing. It's so nice to see and hear about,
Yeah, and it's the way, again, I brought physics in, or Dr. Bruce Lipton helped me bring physics in so people understood this is not woo-woo. It's literally the way biology and energy works.
Right. You're right. It's quantum physics and it's epigenetics and it's like all these things where you're like, you as soon as you realize that it is science, that you're like, oh, wait a minute. Why weren't we taught this stuff?
Yeah.
Right?
People talk about energy. An X-ray machine is bioenergetic. It's an energetic.
Right.
It's energy.
Right.
It's like, how does this cell phone work right here? It's energy, right?
Exactly, right? How can we talk to you thousands of miles away and it's in this invisible line? Where is it? And why?
Yes.
Let's marvel at that a little bit more. Yeah.
Yeah, and when you break that down and people start understanding, it's like, I'm not talking about anything woo-woo here. I'm just talking about the way things work. Do you want to know how it works? Once you know how it works, you can start then making decisions based off of that information.
Right. Right.
You know? Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
So good.
Do you ever see yourself, you don't see yourself slowing down anytime. What do you, I would think just by talking to you, but what would you say to the woman or the man or whomever is listening and says, gosh, I'm too old to start. It's never going to happen. My dreams are never going to come true. What would you say to them?
I would say, aw. And then I would say, I'm 60, and I'm sitting here looking at this a new company I'm about to launch that's on the pad there basically, I'll let you know once it is, and we can come on and talk about it. But
great.
It's really game-changing as far as energy and frequency. But I would say, how would you know that is true? You know,
who told you that?
Maybe be open. What if it could happen? You know, and then just be open and ask whoever you ask. You know, whether it's a prayer, whether it's a meditation. Maybe just say like, get curious. Could I do something else? I don't know. Wouldn't that be cool? You know, and it's just a little sliver of an opening of curiosity that can really open up possibility, right?
Yeah.
You don't need the big plan. You don't need, to know exactly what it is. You just have to give a little gap of curiosity and let that. My mentor, Gay Hendricks, says, that curiosity is a lubricant of life. Just get a little curious and then, be open just a little bit. You didn't have to be totally open, and then see what happens.
And just take the first step. Thank you.
That's it, yeah.
Gosh, big thank you to you, Suzy, for coming on the show. You're amazing, and I really love talking with you. So, yes, you will have to come back.
Yes, and thank you for having me. It's such an honor and such a gift for me to share my favorite subject.
I love it. Me too. I love it so much. All right. Thanks, everybody. You've been listening to Secrets of Powerful Women. I'm Jill Conway. Thank you for listening to the show celebrating incredible women. I hope you are inspired to pursue your own goals, believe in yourself, and dream bigger. We're here to remind you that your voice matters and that your story has power to help others. I hope you join me next time.